Hey everyone, and welcome to this video on the Agent Development Kit, recently released by Google. Now, if you are one of those people that saw the news about MCP blowing up and you are now kicking yourself for not realizing the power of what it provided back then, you do not want to make the same mistake with the Agent Development Kit. In this video, I will explain to you what this Agent Development Kit is, why is it so important, but unlike other videos, I will also be showing you how to build your very own agent and getting it running in less than 5 minutes. Now, here's the agent that we'll be building today, right? Now, we're going to create an agent that is able to scan news across Reddit and summarize the information for you. I'll show you how it works here. Hi there, how are you today? And then you can see, you say, I'm doing well, thanks, how can I help you today? So let's begin. Tell me what you are capable of, right? And this agent is going to say, I'm the Game Dev News Scout, a Reddit Scout agent that searches for the most relevant posts in a given subreddit. I'm able to summarize game development news from subreddits like Game Dev, Unity 3D, and others. So let's say, summarize the top news from Game Dev, Unreal Engine, Unity 3D, maybe Cursor, and Windsurf as well. And let's see what it does, right? So it's actually going to then collect all the information. You can see it running here. It's getting all the news across the different subreddits. It's going to give you a summary of everything that's happening across Reddit today, right? You can go online right now. You can see that Unreal Engine is talking about buoyancy issues. If you go into the Unreal Engine subreddit, you can see buoyancy issues and 6 months of game dev. So you can see that the agent is actually working. And now finally you can say, great, with that in mind, generate a tweet for me so that I can post on social media. And now it's going to be able to use the information that it gathered for you, and it gives you different options as well. Game Dev News Roundup, check out the latest news from Game Dev. Hot topics in game development this week includes beginner advice, ship buoyancy issues, Unity layouts, and more. And it talks about Unity layouts because it actually saw that there was going to be an internal announcement amidst the layoffs. So this is what we'll be doing today. We'll build all of this in just a few minutes and less than 100 lines of code, give or take. And this will give you enough information to understand what the ADK is, how it works, and then you can think about how you can take this even further and do even more interesting stuff. Now, one thing to note is that ADK is not here to replace MCP. In fact, ADK will work in conjunction with MCP. So think about it. Rather than you calling MCP servers manually, just imagine if you have an agent that's able to automatically determine which MCP server to call on behalf of you. And that's very powerful. But for today, we're just focusing on the basics on how to build this agent. And without further ado, let's get started. The first thing you want to do is to head over to this URL here and just copy and clone the repository. If you want to follow along, the code is all available online and it's fully open source. I'm going to clone the repository here. I'm going to go into the directory itself and do cursor dot. This will open up the project within Cursor. Once you open this up, the only thing that you really need to do is to go into the Reddit Scout folder. So once you're in there, the first thing is that you want to create a virtual environment to keep everything in one place. This is optional, but this is usually good practice. So what you're going to do is do python -m vn.vm. So this is going to create an isolated environment so that every package that we install as part of this will be only within this specific environment. So it doesn't clutter up your other projects that you might have on your computer. Okay, so now that you have it, what you do is that you do source vn bin activate, and you will see now it says vn here. And this means that you are now you're going to be using the Python within that environment. And you can test this by doing which Python, and you can see that it's going to be doing that here. So you're going to see that it's going to say that it's within the ADK made simple virtual environment. Now, if you had not done that and you had done which Python outside, it would be some other Python. And if you install any dependencies, it will go into this one, which could then mess up your setup. So once again, you do source bin activate, and then you should be fine. If you actually open up one of the files right now, you go into agent, it says that it doesn't know what google.adk agents is, and that's because you actually haven't installed the dependencies yet. So the thing you want to do is pip install -r requirements, and then that will get you everything that's needed for this project. The main things that you want to be installing is that you have the Google ADK for Agent Development Kit. This is for the second part where we actually connect to Reddit API, and python.env is how you will actually manage your environment variables and your secret keys. So just wait for this to complete. It shouldn't take too long. So once that's installed, you will notice that it still says that it can't find this. And so what you want to do is that you do Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P if you are on a Mac, do select interpreter, and then now you want to put in this vn path that says .vm bin python. Now you will actually use the virtual environment that you actually just created. And you will see that now this thing is now resolved now. because now you're actually using the same virtual environment in VS Code or Cursor or Windsurf that you are running over here. The first thing you want to do here is to actually define the agent. The way you do this is you do agent equals to agent. You can call this anything you want, but I'll call it the Reddit Scout agent. Right. The next thing that you want to do is a quick description so you can see a Reddit Scout agent that searches for the most relevant posts in a given subreddit. So the model that we'll be using today is going to be Gemini 1.5 Flash latest. So this one works pretty well on Google. This is the most important part. You want to give it some instruction on how to behave. And the instructions that you're going to be giving are the following. You are the Game Dev News Scout. Your primary task is to fetch and summarize game development news. And then you're going to give it some guidance around the different subreddits that you want to be able to look for. For example, Unity and Unreal Engine, you're telling it to give it a list of titles by the tool, and then you want to be presenting the information as concise as possible. Ultimately, this is just telling the agent how to behave, right? It's almost like what you would do if you're talking to ChatGPT or Claude to give it context. Now, finally, you will have to do tools because it needs to know what tools are available to the agent to be able to gather this information. So if you've seen MCP before, this is a very similar concept. It's something that the agent can use to get the information for it. But don't worry if you've never used MCP before, this should be quite self-explanatory as well. Before we actually connect to the real Reddit API, I want to show you the entire lifecycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a fake version of the Reddit API call. So I'm going to call this get mock Reddit game dev news, right? And this simulates fetching top posts from a given subreddit. It's as if it's simulating getting things from the game dev subreddit, the Unreal Engine subreddit, and the Unity 3D subreddit. These are all just fake mock posts. The whole point of this is that we just want to make sure that the agent actually runs. And from there, we'll be able to switch this up with the real Reddit calls. So that's great. All right. So you're almost ready to go, but a few more important things. You need to actually add the tool into this list over here so that you know that this tool is actually available. And finally, the other thing that you really need to remember to do is the following. You want to actually say must call tool. And here you want to say you must call the get mock Reddit game dev tools with the identified subreddits. Do not generate summaries without calling the tool first. Before you're going to be able to connect to Gemini, you're going to need to actually add in your Google Cloud API keys. Now, if you go to the env.example, you can actually see that I've already provided a template that you want to use. The first thing you want to do is to save this as .env. All right. And you want to be able to get your Google API key over here. Now, the way to do this is to go to Google Cloud Console, create a new project, call it something like ADK Made Simple. Once that's done, go to Google AI Studio, and at the top here, go to Get API Key, and then you want to say Create API Key, and then you select the project that you just created, ADK Made Simple. Sometimes you have to press enter for it to be able to pick up any new projects that you have. Click on that and do create API key in an existing project. Copy this key that you have here, and then you want to pop it into your env file where it says paste your Google API Studio key over here. Right? So once you've pasted it in, you can close it, and then now you're ready to go because with that, it's going to be able to connect to Gemini 1.5 Flash latest. So what you're going to do now, ADK run, and then you do agents/Reddit Scout. This will start off a chat with the agent, and it says running agent Reddit Scout agent. So now you can say hello there, and it will connect to Gemini and it will respond to you, and you can say give me a summary of all news from Reddit today across game dev, Unreal, and Unity. What this is going to do is that it's actually going to then call the tool against the 3 different subreddits, and then it's going to summarize all of the news for you over here. And isn't this cool? So now you can see how this agent that you've created is actually able to communicate with you. And based on that, can you summarize the most important thing to take away today? Now it's going to say, based on today's news, the most important takeaway is the ongoing discussion and evolution of game engine architecture and performance optimization. This is highlighted by the debates around ECS system in game dev, the focus on performance in 5.4, and the comparison of networking solutions in Unity. And you can see this is actually based on the information that it got from Reddit. I've actually only mocked these titles for now, but we'll see right after this how we can actually connect it to Reddit. The whole point of this is to demonstrate to you what this whole agent flow is about. You've created an agent that is able to look at Reddit, and then you can use the power of AI and LLMs to start querying and understanding information about that. And you can imagine how powerful this is. Just imagine you have an agent for Twitter, and you have an agent for Reddit, and you have an agent for maybe LinkedIn, And then now you can actually utilize all of these different agents, which are specialized in these different tasks. And then you can task them with something, say, get the latest news for today. And then they'll summarize all the information for you. You can actually continue talking to your agent and asking deeper questions. This is very powerful. Now, let me show you another way of testing this out. So if you exit out from here and clear the screen, go into agents and you do ADK web. Within this folder, Google has actually created a web interface dedicated to working with agents. And now you can select your Reddit Scout agent here, and you can do exactly what we were doing earlier, but in a chat interface. So you can do, hello there, right? And then it's going to say, how can I help you today? I'm going to say, give me the latest news across all known subreddits and summarize it for me. This user interface is really good because it can actually tell you all the tools that it was calling. You can see calling it 3 times for the different subreddits, and then after that, it's getting the results back. And then after that, it's going to summarize the news for you over here. So now you have a really nice interface to ask for more information. You can say, what is the biggest takeaway that I can tweet about? And then it's going to say, here's a tweet summarizing the key takeaways suitable for under 280 characters. Game dev news run-up, ECS debated as future, Unreal 5.4 deep dives, and Unity shaded graph tutorials. Now, isn't this cool? Now you've got your very own agent that does tasks for you, that you can use the power of AI and LLMs to then utilize that information in your very own way. Not only that, you actually have a wonderful interface to be able to do that. You can debug the exact calls. You can see all the arguments that were passed in. You can see that it passed in game dev and Unity 3D and an Unreal Engine. And this is really cool. So now that you've seen the power of this, let's actually hook it up with a real Reddit API. The thing you want to do is, rather than using get mocked Reddit game dev news, we are actually going to get the Reddit news for real. You don't have to really worry too much about this. You can just copy and paste the code that I have here. It basically gets the Reddit game dev news across the different Reddits. And the difference in this case is that it's actually going to connect to the Reddit API and get the news for you. You want to add these 2 includes so that you get the get pro, which is the Python Reddit API wrapper. And this code will actually do everything that we were doing earlier, but instead of using mock data, it will actually get real data. It will be useful to actually turn this on as well, even though by default, you will know to get the environment variables in .env, but this is also very useful just to make sure that everything's correct. Then go into your env file and then update these 3 things. Now, I'll show you how to get these things, assuming that you have a Reddit account. Go to this URL here called reddit.com/apps. You can then create an app. I've already created one over here, but I'm going to redo it just for you. I've got ADK made simple scout. Switch this to script, and you don't have to leave anything here like script redirect URL. You can just do something like this, example.com unused redirect/URI. It doesn't really matter because you're actually not going to be using this for your bot. Prove that you're not a bot, create the app, make note of the client ID, which is over here, as well as the secret that's over here. All right, so copy the client ID and pop this into cursor, copy the secret, and then pop it in here. A quick reminder, do not share any of these credentials with anybody. This is just something that you need to have based on the Reddit API's protocol. Okay, so once this is in place, switch this now, and rather than get mock, you do get Reddit game dev news and change this to also use get Reddit game dev news. Well, let's actually just go straight into using the chat interface because it's a lot better. So ADK web, make sure that you're in the agents folder. Let's open it up and let's take a look. Select the agent, Reddit Scout. Hello there, I'm back. All right, what game development news are you interested in today? So you see, it already knows the context around that. It's like, I want the latest news across all subreddits summarized for me, please. And sometimes it does get this wrong, so you can say, get me the latest news across game dev, Unity, 3D, and Unreal Engine. And what you could be doing is it's going to do all this, right? And then it's going to give you a summary. So now this is actually going to be real information that's on Reddit. So you can see right here, it says a buoyancy issue, and this is actually getting it live from the website. So you can see here, 6 months of game dev in 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then you can see it here, 6 months of game dev in 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then buoyancy issue. So now you actually have this, and give me a tweet that summarizes the above. And then now you can actually say game dev news is hot, a new subreddit launch in game dev, Unity dev share their experiences and layoffs, and Unreal Engine users tackle buoyancy and multiplayer. So now you actually have an agent that is able to give you tweets. And now you can actually just imagine running this agent regularly so that it gives you ideas of the latest news that's coming on Twitter. So if you run this every hour, it will say, in this past hour, this was the latest news. And now you can run this on autopilot. And that's it for this tutorial. So the next 2 tutorials that I'll be doing, number 1 is how you can have multiple agents and coordinate among them. So just imagine you actually have one agent that gets the news, another agent that automatically posts to Twitter for you. Now that would be great, right? And second thing to really think about, remember we had to use this Python Reddit API wrapper, and we had to then define the function and write all of this code that did this based on the API. Remember, this is actually what MCP solves. So just imagine if you could use your agent against an MCP server, you don't even need to write the API calls manually. You can then use natural language to define what you needed from Reddit. So this is really powerful. And this is not for today's tutorial, but this will be for a subsequent tutorial where I'll show you how to use agents to call MCP servers. And so now rather than you manually calling them, your agents can do it for you. Putting it all together, I hope you can see why agents are the next big thing. They do not replace MCP servers, rather, they actually work very closely and supercharge them. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If this was useful for you, don't forget to give it a like. If you have any questions at all, and if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see from the next tutorial, like what kind of MCP servers do you like? What kind of agents do you think would be interesting to have? I'd love to know what you want to see, and then I can put together a tutorial that pulls all of these things together. Till next time, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for this channel, because I'll be pumping out a lot more tutorials related to MCP, agent to agent, and AI-powered game development updates. Till next time, see ya!